Hey guys, we are going to start chapter 7.3 today. We're looking at American values and how those have changed. So, a big part of this is households and families, family sizes, the dynamic between mom and dad and the kids, and all those things have changed um, as our culture has changed and just as we've grown up. Um, your lifetime compared to your parents' lifetime is much different, and especially from your grandparents' lifetime until your lifetime, there's a huge change that's taken place. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get too much further into this, I do want to say that, I'm missing you guys, and I think we should do a group chat on Zoom. So starting Thursday at 11 a.m., if you can make it, I'm going to make a point to be on Zoom. I'll share the code in the posting of this video so that we can get together and just kind of chat. I don't care if it's for 2 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is, but it would be good to check in with you guys. If any of you are interested in catching up, we could talk about this class or whatever. It doesn't matter. That would be something that I'd look forward to. All right, so changing American values. So change is something that's going to happen in our lives constantly. Sometimes change is good, sometimes change is bad, but it's something for you to kind of get used to. And you know that already, and you've especially learned that lesson in our last few weeks of just living in our country and our world. As it pertains to business, we are constantly coming up with new ideas, new products. Take any task you can think of, and if you go back 70 years, we probably do that task slightly differently. There might be a tool, there might be a product, there might be technology that helps us to accomplish that goal. And we're always kind of shifting in the way we do things. So our values are super important to us. Okay, your values are unique to you, and they are a combination of certain things. What you value drives the decisions that you make. So the things that you find important to you influence you when it comes to making choices in your life. So these are our underlying beliefs and attitudes, and no matter how similar you are to another girl or boy in your class, your values are unique to you because it's a combination of everything you've experienced in your life, and it's what you find important, and it drives choices that you make. So our societal values have definitely been changing at a fast pace. Technology, I would say, is probably one of the biggest influencers in this. Social media, although it can be fun and enjoyable, it can also be toxic, and it certainly plays a role in what we value. So I'm guilty of this, and you're maybe guilty of it as well, but you swipe through your phone before bed or when you wake up in the morning and you see different things, you see people's lifestyles, and you may kind of be jealous or thinking that everyone else is living this great life and you're missing out. Um, Try not to fall into that trap, as hard as it may be. Um, those people that are sharing those things may be experiencing great times, but it doesn't mean that you're missing out on anything, or that the whole world's flying past you. Just keep that in mind, keep that in perspective, and try to help that impact your values in life. So a big development in this whole transformation is in the family, and that is where you spend, a huge part of your time is with your family, and that's definitely one of the biggest impacts on what you value. And so the changing family dynamic plays a part in that as well. Um, we see that divorce rates are climbing. Doesn't mean that anyone's failed if they've divorced. It's just a kind of a change in society. I would say that my grandparents' generation, there was probably plenty of their friends that, or maybe even them, who knows, that, maybe should have been divorced or shouldn't have lived their entire lives together because they weren't right for each other. Um, but it just wasn't accepted. So, people of that generation, whether, people that weren't maybe completely happy in their marriage, may have just kind of stuck it out because it wasn't seen as acceptable. And divorce rates today are very high because it seems that, people see it as more acceptable. So, absolutely nothing for me to judge why two people become divorced. There's always a unique story to that, but that is definitely a change that has happened within our culture, and it's seen as more acceptable. And as it's seen as more acceptable, it happens more often. So then you have families that are what we would call, in quotes, non-traditional, which again doesn't make them right or wrong. It's just kind of a change that our generation has seen compared to previous generations. We know the birth rate has declined. Women are working more and following their pursuits of a career and not living up to a previous stereotype of just staying at home and doing work within the home. So if we look back, TV's kind of a fun thing and maybe a distracting thing in this time in our society. But if you look back to old TV shows, if you've ever watched one, here in the slideshow we see Leave It to Beaver. This was the traditional American family, you know, maybe 4 or more people in total. The mom stayed home, dad went to work. They talked about their day, they followed rules, and this was seen as the perfect life, but we certainly see that it doesn't have to be that way to be perfect or to be the right way to live. And so you can kind of watch, just as kind of an experiment, if you watch TV shows from back in the 50s and 60s and 70s till now, you'll see quite a bit of change. And in those TV shows, they were trying to fit what was the quote unquote norm of those days. So the stat here is that fewer than 1/4 of American families would fit this picture today, as families are just growing and changing and they're different. And as that happens, our values might change as well. The last slide we'll talk about today, we were looking at an older TV show in the past slide, and this one's a newer show called Modern Family. If you've ever seen it, it's a pretty funny show, but certainly not nearly as uniform or common family, and that's why it's called Modern Family. Is that now in today's world, you can't just put one family on TV and say, this fits all of us, because everyone's families are different and all of our values are different. So we see changes in blended families, kind of like, step siblings coming together. We might see a stay-at-home dad, which at one point would have been kind of, unseen and definitely not uncommon. We see multi-generational households where an older family member may move in and retire within with their kids. So things have changed completely. And again, not to say what's right or wrong, but this is kind of a focus of our values and the way life changes. Businesses, let's tie this all into business. Businesses have to respond to families and how they've changed. So you may see lots of changes within our culture, within our country, and businesses want to adapt to try and fit their consumers, and they have to understand that their consumers are of these new modern families, or they can't be of an old train of thought of what a family should be, and try to focus on where people stand now, what they value, and that reflects their business choices.